Steelers have ruled running back James Conner out this week against the Bengals. Conner is now missing the better part of 3 games with the injured shoulder. So instead, Fabs, looks like Jalen Samuels gets to face the 4th worst run defense in the Bengals.
Yeah, I know, and if you're able to grab him, I think he was the most added player on NFL.com. Start him as an RB2. The Bengals have allowed 12 touchdowns, the 5th most fantasy points to running backs. And in games where Conner has missed since last year, Samuels has averaged nearly 16 fantasy points a game.
More bad news, in case you missed it. Juju Smith-Schuster also out with the knee and concussion from last week. Too bad for owners who would also be licking their chops for that matchup with the Bengals. Now, though, James Washington becomes an interesting play. Do you like it this week, Rank?
Interesting. That's a pretty good way of putting that. It's kind of like when you're at the Thanksgiving table and somebody brings the canned cranberries instead of the real. It's like, it's fine, but I would prefer the other thing.
No question.
And I think that's where we're at with James Washington. But what we should know is that the Bengals have allowed the 5th most fantasy points to wide receivers this season, and Washington is averaging over 5 targets per game since week 9. That's the most on the Steelers.
Nice connection with Mason Rudolph. And in case you missed it, Patriots quarterback Tom Brady is listed as questionable for the first time all season.
No way.
Settle down. Our NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport says he is expected to play Sunday, visiting with the Cowboys in Foxborough as he manages the elbow issue. The news, though, not stopping one of us here in our Showdowns, so stay tuned for that in just a moment. And also, in case you missed it for that Patriots offense, wide receiver Mohamed Sanu back in practice on Friday in a limited fashion. He's listed as questionable for Sunday with the injured ankle. So if he can't go, Cynthia, what if you have rookie N'Keal Harry in the lineup? What are we looking at there?
Well, last week he had, 3 receptions on 4 targets, so it's not a ton of production necessarily last week. However, without Mo Sanu and in this situation, I know that the Dallas Cowboys defense is a little stingy to opposing wide receivers, but this could be a huge upside pick, so I'm tracking this one and then managing expectations accordingly.
ICYMI, so much for Fabs' inside
All right,
sources.
that was Wednesday.
It's
Friday now.
Friday.
I haven't heard from my source.
And even though you said Evan Ingram started himself on his own fantasy team because he was going to play this weekend, head coach Pat Shurmur has declared both Ingram and backup tight end Rhett Ellison out this week versus the Bears. So Sterling Shepard will make his return. That's nice. Fabs, who, though, is Mr. Ingram starting in his own stead?
Well, the only tight end he has on his bench is Gerald Everett, which means he's likely to play Gerald Everett this week unless he makes another move and there's not much on the waiver wire. Although, I don't really love the matchup. Last week, he was limited to, 14 snaps because of the shoulder, and the Ravens have been tough on tight ends. They've allowed just 2 touchdowns, the 4th fewest points to that position, and the Rams are getting a little bit healthier in that passing game. I like how you're calling the game while I'm analyzing.
I'm just saying.
Jared Everett.
That's what he does.
I crazy, but I think he's going to look at him.
More on the Rams here in just a moment, but let's keep it with the tight ends here. And in case you missed it, 49ers tight end George Kittle listed as questionable after practicing on that injured knee in a limited fashion today. So, Cynthia, if he goes, what kind of numbers do we expect?
Well, he's the 4th overall points per game tight end, and I think you would expect something like that. Maybe even, I don't know, for me, he's 2nd if he's playing. If he's out there, you're rostering him. But just keep in mind that you have to be mindful of this beforehand because they play late. So just have a backup plan because it's not sure. It's a true game time decision from what I'm hearing.
Also, just a life policy. Have a backup plan. You know what I mean? In case you missed it, despite being back in practice, Browns head coach Freddie Kitchens says his tight end, David Njoku, will not come off injured reserve to play on Sunday versus the Dolphins. Njoku has been out since week 3 when he broke his wrist and had surgery. Also in injury news, Lions quarterback Matthew Stafford has been declared out for the 3rd straight game with fractures in his back. Remember, though, that our NFL insider, Ian Rappaport, said he could miss a month and a half with the injury. Meantime, Jeff Driscoll, quarterback number 5 last week, putting up just over 27 fantasy points. Rank, you like him this week again?
Oh, my gosh.
Against the Redskins?
It is Jeff Driscoll season. As you see right there, he's scored at least 18 fantasy points in both starts he's made this season. The reason why, he's running the football. He's averaged 44 rushing yards per game. That's 2nd amongst quarterback this week. He's got Washington. They've allowed 19 passing touchdowns to quarterbacks, which is good because it means that Driscoll might make a second read. Probably not, because that's good for us. Make that read and then run.
One and run, baby.
Just run, baby.
That's a beautiful
ICYMI. Rams wideout Brandon Cooks has cleared the concussion protocol and will return this week to face the Ravens on Monday night. Robert Woods also expected to be back from the personal issue that held him out last week. So let's turn to our favorite color analyst for the Rams radio broadcast, MJD. Give us a look at what we can expect from Brandon Cooks.
Well, I think again, with Brandon Cooks, the Rams haven't been able to stretch defenses vertically down the field, obviously with his speed and his playmaking ability with the ball in the air, and they've missed it. Now, the Rams are going to be a run-first team going against this Baltimore Ravens team, but they'll be able to stretch the field a little bit more with Brandon Cooks out there.
And for Robert Woods, now if that makes it a full complement, the full trio.
And I still think, again, the Rams are going to come out and what they did against the Chicago Bears, try to run the ball, shorten the game because they know their offensive line is banged up. But one of the things they couldn't do against the Bears was really throw the ball down the field. Robert Woods gives them another option, so now guys just can't key on Cooper Kupp. You'll have everyone there. And again, Robert Woods is a phenomenal receiver. He is actually their number one receiver, the guy they try to target as much as possible. He gets a lot of the top coverage as well.
And you can listen to MJD's commentary on Game Pass, which I do every Sunday.
Frank, thank you. You know what's crazy? There's one of us here that's my neighbor that probably doesn't listen to it, so I'm not going to say any names. But
I hear enough of you in the studio.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You feel it?
No, I actually do feel fast on that one. Time for our first Sunday showdown of the day. We will hit all 12 Sunday games.
Show we're having?
Let's start with the Cowboys visiting the Patriots. Cynthia, what do you have?
I have a big start on, ready? Tom Brady.
Wait a minute.
Yes.
Wait a minute.
I'm stealing your gig with the super obvious start. Okay, it's not necessarily super obvious this year. He does rank 14th overall amongst quarterbacks, so it's not super obvious, but Dallas has allowed 19 or more fantasy points to quarterbacks in not one, but two straight games. I'm not worried about the injury report.
MJD?
Yes, for me, it's going to be beware of Michael Gallup, kind of like being aware of Rhett's pants. It happens sometimes. But listen, the Patriots are going to put Stephon Gilmore on Michael Gallup. They're going to double team Amari Cooper. That's what they do, and they're going to force Dak to throw to his third option. And I think if Stephon Gilmore covers Michael Gallup, it's going to be one of the toughest coverages he's going to have all year. I just don't like the matchup.
Yeah, you're going to see a theme here because you're saying to beware Gallup. I'm saying to sit Randall Cobb, who has given you over 44 fantasy points in his last two games, but the Patriots have allowed one touchdown to a slot receiver. That was Golden Tate, and the fifth fewest fantasy points to the slot. So as hot as Cobb has been lately, he's going to cool down in New England.
Okay, guys, on to the second matchup. It is the Seahawks visiting the Eagles in Philly.
It's Adam Rank's super obvious start of the week.
Oh.
Is this what we're doing? Is this the kind of people that we become? Mr. Jokester? Oh, you're going to yuck it up? Let me tell you something. Let me tell you a story about Mr. Silver, who guards the gate here at NFL Media. Listen, he doesn't have the time to do research like we do. So he asked me this morning as I was pulling in at 6:08, and he says, Mr. Rank, let me ask you a question.
Why were you 8 minutes late?
I know. Listen, I was at the gym getting swole. Listen, the thing is, he asked me if he should start. He asked me if I should start Russell Wilson because last week that defense slowed down Tom Brady. So I'm sorry that it is obvious to us and people like you, but I am here for the people. I am doing it for them. So start him.
So start Russell Wilson? Is that what we're saying? Okay, that's what we got.
Okay.
How about you?
I'll be quick. Chris Carson, beware, because the Eagles defense, they're doing a phenomenal job stopping the run. And again, I think Russell Wilson, they're going to try to take advantage of this team in the air. So just try to be, a little bit football smart. If the team is topping the rush of defense, I wouldn't play a running back.
You know what's football smart? Starting Miles Sanders.
Oh.
And this one is a little spicy against the Seahawks. But look, you've seen his usage, production, and efficiency go up, and they're going to need to figure out a way to keep pace with the Seahawks because they know on offense they can score. So Miles Sanders is going to be that early down workhorse.
Sounds like Alshon Jeffrey trending towards playing, but he's listed as questionable along with Jordan Howard for the Eagles. Our next showdown, a big one on Sunday night, Packers and 49ers. Fats, lead it off.
I am to say sit Jimmy Graham. I get it. He's got a big name. Look at his numbers. Not very good. He has scored fewer than 8 fantasy points in 5 of his last 6 games. The Niners have allowed 2 touchdowns to tight ends. And if you're looking for a tight end, Jacob Hollister, Ryan Griffin, Noah Fant. Forget about Jimmy Graham.
MJD?
Really? Listen, start. There you go. Start Tevin Coleman.
Good Hoosier, baby. Good Hoosier.
Chill out. I'm very excited about this opportunity because the way Kyle Shanahan has been utilizing his speed and his ability to run in the open field, as you see here, they're going to have to lean on the run against this Packers team. You do not want the ball in Aaron Rodgers' hands the whole game against your defense. I don't care how good they are. And the Niners, again, are one of the top teams running the ball.
Yeah.
Tevin Coleman is a guy I'm going to lean on.
Green Bay allowing the 3rd most fantasy points per game to running backs. Adam Rank, what do you think?
I'm going to say start Aaron Rodgers. Is this okay? Do you have any funny animation for this one, Ren?
Well, I mean, it is interesting, though. He's outside of the top 10.
Yeah, I understand that. And here's the thing. There are two things that make this 49ers defense so good. Pressure on the quarterback and creating turnovers. Here's the problem. Aaron Rodgers doesn't get sacked. Aaron Rodgers doesn't throw interceptions. That means he's going to be able to move this offense up and down the field. Now, what we've seen out of him this season is that he's ceded a lot of those touchdowns to Aaron Jones. That possibly could happen, but I think that Aaron Rodgers is going to be productive and going to move this Packers offense.
Yeah, let's start right here with that game. It's the Panthers visiting the Saints. Cynthia.
I have a beware here on, on DJ Moore.
No!
I told y'all
Say
last
it ain't
week.
so, Cynthia.
Oh, it's so.
He scored 17 points last week.
Well, I'm sorry. It's a beware here. I'm not saying you're not starting him. I'm saying beware because what happens with Kyle Allen and all these turnovers, it's turned into
Cam
something
is
different
coming
from the
back.
first 4 games. So that's a big deal in this one. Right. Cam Jordan is a big deal in this one.
There you go.
Rank, floor is yours.
I'm going to be starting Jared Cook in this game. He's had at least 11 fantasy points in 4 consecutive games, and in a position where we've struggled to find available players, I'm not going to turn that production down.
No, heck no. All right, let's get to the
Okay, you can.
next showdown, shall we? It's the Dolphins visiting the Browns. Fabs?
Start Kareem Hunt. He is an RB2 flex this week against the Dolphins. They've allowed the 8th most fantasy points to running backs. And Kareem Hunt has actually scored more fantasy points than Nick Chubb in 2 straight games.
That boy running.
I love the 8+ targets in each of the last 2 games
Big time
as well.
volume.
Cynthia?
Low-key, best part of the show is Maurice's little ad-libs there on ours. So can I have some hype here for my sleeper on Devontae Parker?
Snooze. Do not hit snooze because he's balling.
Okay.
He is.
I think this is a good upside pick here. I think this is going to be a closer than expected game, but don't worry, Mossy, I still have the Browns winning.
Rank?
I'm going to start Baker Mayfield. Not only have the Dolphins given up the 5th most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks, they've given up the most air yards per target, which means that could be great for OBJ.
And, of course, one key
Why
to
isn't that OBJ?
Mayfield's success is connecting with the aforementioned Odell Beckham, although it's been a season of more lows than highs for this 1-2 punch. AFC South showdown, Jaguars visiting the Titans. Rank?
I've got a sleeper in Chris Conley. He's had at least 11 fantasy points in 3 out of his last 4 games. And the Tennessee Titans have allowed the 3rd most fantasy points to receivers since week 8.
D.D. Westbrook also seems to be over his illness, no longer listed on the Jags injury report. MJD, what do you have?
Yes, I'm going to say start Jonnu Smith. Delaney Walker is listed as doubtful. And so for me, this young receiver here who's been balling, or tight end / receiver, is one of those big guys, kind of like Gerald Everett. He's going to be running a ton of routes. He's fast enough to break tackles, strong enough to make tackles, fast enough to run away from people. I think he's going to be a huge playmaker in this game.
Next showdown, we've got the Jets hosting the Raiders. Fabs, what do you like?
Start Jamison Crowder. I mean, he's becoming a must-start. 18+ points in 3 straight games. Sam Darnold is throwing the ball to the slot about 30% of his pass attempts, and the Raiders have allowed 9 scores and the 7th most points to the slot. So Jamison Crowder is a strong play, guys.
Yeah, I look, Rank, I know the people say, are you kidding me? I'm definitely going to start Josh Jacobs, but the Jets' defense is phenomenal against the run. I just think this offensive line for the Oakland Raiders is starting to really play at a high level, and Josh Jacobs is going to get a ton of yards, so I'm starting him.
Ton of touches as well, averaging over 20 a game. Next showdown, Bucks and Falcons. MJD, back to you.
Listen, stream the Falcons' defense.
Love it.
Period.
Love it.
They're balling. I just don't know. You change one coach, and all of a sudden the whole team changes around. Like it's unbelievable. I get it. Dan Quinn's not calling the plays, but right now they are playing at a high level. They're finding a way to get sacks, turn the ball over, 4 interceptions last week. Hey, it's all you want to do. They're a turnover machine. I love it.
Rank, back to you.
You want to go to a zone of danger? Because I want to start Russell Gage against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who've allowed the most fantasy points to slot receivers this season. And ever since Mo Sanu was sent to New England, Gage has averaged 21 slot routes per game. Per game.
Okay, I can deal with it.